Can everyone hear me well?
Yes.
Also in the back? Okay. Welcome. My name is Carolina Frimer. I'm the Community Director of the Interfaith Encounter Association, one of the organizers of this event. As you see, this is a collaborative event of many organizations, as it should be, if we're talking about building interfaith relations and building a better future for everyone. It needs to be a collaborative project. So Yoda is going to say a few words also about our sponsors and partners. I just want to start with a short story because I think that's the right Jewish thing to do. That this event, the idea for this event started in one of the IEA groups, the Interfaith Encounter Group for Study of the New Testament. And I have to be honest that when I started working with maybe it's the cameras. Can everyone hear me well?
No, then you want me to talk about
No, we need. No, of course we tested all the microphones 1,000 times before you start speaking. That's how.
Prime Minister is coming to telecom.
Make sure all these are off. Let's make sure the others are on.
Hello? Hello?
Okay.
Okay. Hopefully this one's better. When I joined the IEA 6 years ago, as a community director, I was responsible for overseeing many different groups. We have over 30 groups all over the Holy Land. And most of these groups are groups with Jewish and Christian and Muslim and Druze participants who every time they meet to talk about different interfaith topics. And there was this one odd group. There was Jewish Christian with Jewish Christian participants that study every time they study different parts of the New Testament. And I came from Brazil, which is the country with the greatest Catholic population in the world. And I studied in a Catholic institution, in Catholic university. And I said, okay, that's nice. Don't think there's going to be anything especially new for me. And I'm so happy to say I was so wrong. Because when I started joining the encounters of this group, we would just sit and read together the New Testament, and started seeing like there were Jews from different denominations and Christians from different denominations. And reading together, I started to see how my Christian peers would see Judaism from the time of Jesus. And seeing through their eyes, I learned so much about my own Judaism, how I explain it and how I connect it. And how many prejudices I still have about Christian people, with Catholics and Protestants alike, even though I grew up among them, even though I studied about them. But it's so different when we come purposefully with dialogue in mind, with connection in mind. It brings us something different. So we're here today to commemorate 60 years of a breakthrough in Jewish-Christian relations, specifically, but interfaith relations in general. And I think it's something that we're here to celebrate on one hand, and to also take it upon themselves to continue and to see how we can continue to do better. Especially in the times that we live now, what is our role as an interfaith community to connect and to build and to heal together. So we have a very busy program. We're going to start with a panel of religious leaders soon. After the opening remarks of Father John Paul, we'll have a session of praying together in Jerusalem, led by Peta. And then after the coffee break, we're going to have a second panel with representatives from different interfaith initiatives, and also an interactive study where you'll be able to have a little taste of this group that I just told you about. And then everyone is very welcome to share some light dinner together. So I'll just invite our executive director, Therese to give a few things to everyone.
Very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the
So I will also start with a story. I first experienced interfaith dialogue 35 years ago. Back then, the field was predominantly Jewish-Christian dialogue. There were very few Muslims involved. Also, very few Orthodox Jews involved. And everyone, of course, were aware of the nearly 2,000 years of problematic history between Jews and Christians, and the sharp turn that occurred with Nostra Aetate. 35 years later, when we came to organize this event, I mean, I was happy to learn from Father Piotr the art, but until an hour ago, I was sure that this was the only event commemorating 60 years to Nostra Aetate. And I think if you ask anyone on the street, no one knows what it is. And I think it's a pity, and this is one of the reasons that we wanted to have this event. Maybe there's also an element of repentance, because I think the Interfaith Encounter Association is partly responsible for that. Because when we started a bit more than 24 years ago, we shifted the focus from interfaith learning, which was the meaning of interfaith dialogue before, which you will experience in the first two panels or lectures of experts speaking to the audience who comes to listen and learn. We shifted that to encounter, where people meet each other, looking each other in the eye, open their hearts towards each other, and transform the way they relate to the other, from prejudices and negative stereotypes to real understanding and respect and trust. So the Interfaith Encounter Association started with this in mind, and we very quickly started developing ongoing groups. Already in 2001, we had the first group, a group of women that was active for 70 years, if I'm not mistaken. Since then, we established 135 groups. Right now, close to 40 are active, all parts of the country. In addition to that, there are a few Israeli-Palestinian groups that are inactive because of the lack of permits. Any one of you, and I think many of you are still not part of a group, are most welcome to join one of the groups or more. Okay, so now I want to before we start, I move to the next speaker. I want to first thank very, very much. First of all, my three colleagues, they did all the work. I mean, I hardly did anything. I have to admit, I gave some advice, but I hardly did anything. But those who make this happen are Carolina Freemer, whom you met, and Abir Abdeldaim, whom you met outside. And Time Hilan, who is downstairs in the registration. I also want to thank our partners. It's so great to, like Carolina said, to make this event a big event with many partners. So I wrote down the names because people keep twisting our names. So I want to do that to others. So St. James Vicariate for Hebrew-speaking Catholics in Israel, Dutch Center for Israeli Studies, Tantur Ecumenical Center, the Or Torah Interfaith Center, Blickle Institute for Interfaith Dialogue, the Pontifical Mission and the Notre Dame Center, Elijah Interfaith, the Rainbow Group, Praying Together in Jerusalem, and Yakar Center of Jerusalem. Now I would like to invite Father John Paul to give opening remarks. I will introduce you. Reverend John Paul S.J. is a member of the Midwest Province of the Society of Jesus and is director of Tantur Ecumenical Center. He was ordained in 1980 and has a Master's of Sacred Theology from the Jesuit School of Theology in Berkeley, California, as well as a Master's of Fine Arts in Theater from the Catholic University in Washington, D.C. He has served as Director of Novices, Assistant Provincial, Director of Formation, and Provincial Assistant for the Native Ministry in his years of internal governance within the Jesuits. He also had ministered with the native people of the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota working as a teacher, superior, president, and superintendent of schools at Red Cloud Indian School. Prior to coming to Tantur, he was at Cristo Rey Jesuit High School in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Father John Paul, please.
Good afternoon. I want to begin by just simply saying it's an honor and a privilege to be able to give this opening address with a little bit of an introduction.
Microphone. You're closer to your mouth. Yeah. It's strong.
Okay. I want to begin by giving a little bit of an introduction to this document of Nostra Aetate by sharing some of the excerpts from this document that was issued October 28, 1965, promulgated by Pope Paul VI. And it's obviously the subject of the conference today. Since the two previous speakers began with the story, I will share a little bit of story about this document. During the Vatican Council II, one of the items that was not on the agenda was interreligious dialogue or conversations. And it came about through a personal relationship between a French Jewish historian by the name of Dr. Jules Isaac and his very good friend, Pope John the 23rd. And in one of their prior meetings, Dr. Isaac mentioned, and so, Your Holiness, will this synod that you are about to begin talk about the relationship of your church with your fellow non-Christians? The Pope was left wordless. And yet the seed was planted because as Pope John continued to contemplate this question, the Holy Spirit kicked into overdrive and it appeared on the agenda. Thanks be to God. So I'm going to give you some excerpts from this document because I think they really speak very powerfully and eloquently to a real change of attitude and practices that emerged after Vatican II. It's a little bit on the lengthy side, so my apologies. But it does reflect what happened at Vatican II in terms of this attitude of aggiornamento, that openness and encounter with our fellow non-Christians. Written by Pope Paul VI himself. In our time, when day by day mankind is being drawn together ever more closely between different peoples, and those bonds are becoming stronger. Remember, this was dated 1965. The Church examines more closely her relationship with non-Christian religions. And in her task of promoting unity and love amongst peoples, among all nations, she considers above all this declaration of what people have in common and what draws us together in greater fellowship. We are a community of all peoples, for God made the whole human race to live over the face of the earth. One is our final goal, God, his manifestation of goodness, his saving design extending to all peoples. And looking forward to that time when the elect will be united in a holy city ablaze with the glory of God, where nations will walk in his light. Throughout the ages, various religions have sought to answer unsolved riddles of the human condition, which stir the hearts of mankind. What is man? What's the meaning and the aim of our life? What is moral good? And what is sin? Why is there suffering? And what is the purpose of suffering in life? What is the road to true happiness? What lies beyond death? Religions found everywhere try to encounter the restlessness of the human heart by proposing ways to live, comprising teachings, rules of life, sacred rituals. And it is important to state here that the Catholic Church rejects nothing that is true and holy in these religions. She regards with sincere reverence those ways of conduct and of life and of teaching, which, though different in many aspects from the ones that she holds and sets forth, reflect the rays of truth which enlighten all. And so, therefore, the Church exalts her children, exhorts her children through dialogue and collaboration with the followers of other religions in a spirit of prudence, of love, and in witness to our Christian faith and life, to recognize, to preserve, and to promote the good things, spiritual and moral, found amongst peoples. As the Sacred Synod searches into the mystery of the Church, it remembers especially that bond that spiritually ties the people of the New Covenant to Abraham's stock. Thus, the Church acknowledges that, according to God's saving design, the beginnings of her faith were found with the patriarchs, with Moses and the prophets, and the chosen people's exodus from the land of bondage. The Church, therefore, cannot forget that she received the revelation of the Old Testament through a people with whom God, in his inexpressible mercy, concluded that ancient covenant. Nor can the Church disregard or forget that she still draws sustenance from the roots of that well-cultivated olive tree. God holds the Jewish people most dear for the sake of their fathers, and God does not repent of the gifts that he makes or of the calls that he issues. That all people will address the Lord in a single voice and will serve him shoulder to shoulder. Since the spiritual patrimony common to Christians and Jews is thus so great, this synod wants to foster and recommend mutual understanding and respect, for it is the fruit of biblical and theological studies as well as fraternal dialogues. What happened in Christ's passion and crucifixion cannot be charged against Jews without distinction, then or now. The Jewish people should not be presented as rejected or accursed by God, as if this follows from some sort of holy scriptures. All should see to it, then, that in catechetical work, in preaching the word of God, or even in teaching, that nothing is presented that does not conform to the truth of the gospel and the Spirit of Christ. Furthermore, in her rejection of every persecution of any person, the Church, mindful of the patrimony that she shares with the Jews, must decry hatred, persecution, displays of anti-Semitism directed against Jews at any time by anyone. The Church also holds with regards and esteem the Muslim people, who also adore the one God and who take pains to submit wholeheartedly to his inscrutable decrees, just as Abraham submitted to God. They too await the day of judgment of God, who will render their deserts to all who have been raised up. They value too a moral life and a worship of God, especially through prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. Therefore, we cannot truly call on God as Father of all if we refuse to treat in a brotherly way any human being. Man's relationship to God and his relationship to his fellow man are also linked so closely together that, as Scripture says, he who does not love does not know God. No foundation, therefore, remains for any theory or practice that leads to discrimination between men or peoples, so far as their human dignity and their rights flowing from it are concerned, because of any race, color, condition of life, or religion. We must live together in peace with all humankind, so that we may truly be sons and daughters of our Father. Oof. Very bold and very pretty words. Yet, pretty words are meant to be so much more than just pretty words. They're meant to be integrated into our being, into our thoughts, into our deeds, into our breathing, into our actions. And so we hear a bold challenge in this document and an invitation of how do we live out our faith in integrity and authenticity. And so I want to conclude by using two significant images that I think represents this document, the spirit of Vatican II's declaration, Nostra Aetate, especially regarding the relationship between Christians and Jewish faiths. The first one, synagogue and ecclesia, two sisters. And these are various statues outside a cathedral in Western Europe. And what you see to your left is an ecclesia holding the standard, the banner of Christ, in a very triumphant posture. And what you see on the right is synagogue, downcast, with a broken lance, with the scrolls held down, saddened because, sorry, she missed the boat. The Jewish people just didn't understand. And so, therefore, a sense of loss. And yet, and again, it's portrayed in several different elements and places. But a number of years ago, about 15, 20 years ago, St. Joseph's University in Philadelphia, a Jesuit university, hired a Jewish artist, a Jewish sculptor in Philadelphia to create a new reflection of Nostra Aetate. And what I love about this particular image is that it's two sisters sitting together, wanting to learn from each other together. And so you see synagogue looking towards the scriptures being held by ecclesia, and ecclesia looking towards the scrolls of the holy Jewish scriptures. And sitting side by side, they sit together in companionship of equal stature, looking intently and with interest at what the other is holding, what they can learn from each other. They journey together. And I can't help but think of, and I hope I don't mispronounce this, the practice of Haruka,
Yes.
studying 2 by 2, to learn, to dialogue, to reflect, to pray. And so here we are, synagogue and ecclesia. Away we go.
We're now going to move into the first panel, and they'll just get up on the stage. And I hope that you're managing to both hear and see what we're hearing and seeing here. I apologize.
That's exactly what we're doing here today, is learning together, doing a Haruka together with about 80 people here in this room. And I'm glad to move on to our first panel. which will discuss context, the impact, and the legacy of Nostra Aetate from the point of view of different religious leaders in different communities. I'd like to invite our participants to join the panel while I introduce our facilitators. So please, Father Ginger Zaleski, Rabbi David Rosen, and Qadi Muhammad Abu please. And our facilitator, Rabbi Dr. Nalvidar. Can you please join us here? So I'll just introduce our facilitator, Rabbi Dr. Naomi Dar, and she will introduce our panelists. Rabbi Dr. Naomi Dar is a scholar. And a conservative rabbi. She studied at Shefet Institute for Rabbinic Coordination and has master's degree in Talmud and Halacha. She studied at Hebrew University for a bachelor's degree in life science and master's and doctoral degrees in philosophy and science. She specialized in philosophy of evolution and the Jewish view of this topic. She's a member of the Masorti Yedid Nefesh community in Modi'in and one of the coordinators of the Interfaith Encounter Group in Ashkela, Modi'in, Ramle, as well as the Interfaith Encounter Group in cooperation with 9 to 9 Initiative. So now me the floor is.
Thank you very much, Caroline, and good afternoon to all of you. I just wanted to open with the memory of my mother. My mother was Professor Bakirba Albert. She was a scholar of, she studied medieval history, especially Christianity and interaction with Judaism. Unfortunately, she passed away, but she was the first to introduce me into Christianity and the relationship with Judaism. And it was common for us, me and my sister and my father, to go with her to churches, to monasteries, to admire the beautiful art of Christianity. And so it was, I think, natural for me to join those groups in which we discuss and study together both Judaism, Christianity, and Islamic studies. So I'm very happy to be here, and it brings up all those good memories, and I hope we have a good discussion today. Okay, I'll start with the question I have of the history of the process that led to this to Nostra Aetate. How did it originate, and also how it become a statement, a document? Would you like to? Okay, so Father Dr. Zaleski, yes, and born in Luxor, Poland in 1976, is a Catholic priest and currently serves as the patriarch, vicar of the Hebrew-speaking Catholic community in Israel with the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem. After his ordination in 2003, he pursued advanced biblical study at the Biblical Institute in Rome, the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, and the Studio of Biblical Franciscum, where he earned doctorate in biblical science and archaeology. But Father Zaleski has served in various pastoral groups in Jerusalem and Beersheba, and has been leading the Hebrew-speaking Catholic community since his appointment by Patriarch Battista Isabella in 2021.
Thank you very much. To answer your question about the historical context and social context of Nostra Aetate, I would like to start with expression of my joy to see all of you today. And if I'm not mistaken, me and Father John Paul are the only Catholic speakers here. So you already see the impact. An internal document of a Catholic church from 60 years ago brings attention of so many absolutely fantastic guests. And I'm not speaking only about my colleagues at the panel here, but about all of you present here today. So the impact is real, is now, is happening now. I can see so many people until today interested in commemorating this document. 60 years after, an internal document of the Catholic Church brings attention of so many people, so many fantastic religious leaders from all over the world. So here's about the impact, but I want to start about the context. How did it happen? How this fantastic, absolutely changing the world document, or especially the Catholic world, but maybe even Christian world, maybe even interreligious world, how this document happened in the Catholic Church. And Nostra Aetate could not have emerged outside the context of the Second Vatican Council. You know, the Church until the Second Vatican Council, until today, had like 21 ecumenical councils, which are the gatherings of bishops from all over the world, where the Church makes a reflection about what is our faith, what do we believe in. Let's define, usually reacting on some phenomena that were happening in the history, in the societies, reacting to some statements that needed clarification, reacting to some, I don't like this word, but heresies, errors, mistakes. Somebody publishes something, the Church needs to react. Is it Catholic? Is it our faith? Or maybe not. So 21 times in the history of the Catholic Church, we had those gatherings. And here it comes, Second Vatican Council, which means the first one was also 100 years earlier, also in the Vatican. Okay? But this year we celebrate the anniversary of the first council in Nicaea, 325. So this is not something new in the history of the Catholic Church. Those gatherings, however, are always thought about gatherings of people of faith who would like to make a reflection about what do we believe in? What is the official teaching of the Church? Okay? And here comes the council with its renewal of the pastoral sensitivity, with its global engagement, and it created the condition for this historic declaration. It transformed the Church and its posture from one of condemnation to one of dialogue, respect, and shared humanity. You know that the Council's vision was directed towards renewal and openness. And Father John Paul mentioned the word aggiornamento in Italian, the bringing up to date. This was the guiding principle of Vaticanum Secundum. The Church sought to engage positively with the modern world, including science, culture, and other religions. The spirit of openness created space for rethinking long-held positions, including the Church's relationship with Judaism and other faiths. There was a shift in ecclesiology, the science of what the Church is, and in theology. Vatican II redefined the Church not as a fortress where you need to defend yourself while everybody else is your enemy trying to destroy you, but as a pilgrim people, people walking, journeying together with all humanity. The Church should not look at the others as enemies who try to be against you, but as those who walk together in various different groups, but we all are pilgrims on this earth, which means our time is limited here. Let's use this time not as enemies, as being enemies, but as people who recognize, at least recognize themselves. The documents of the Vaticanum Secundum, the other documents like Lumen Gentium about the Church, or Gaudium et Spes about the Church in the modern world. These documents emphasize dialogue, dignity, and shared human experience. I think this is the key. We have so much in common, and the existential questions of everyone are the same, no matter what you believe in or whether you believe in anything. So this theological shift laid the ground for Nostra Aetate to affirm that truth and holiness can be found also in other religions. Truth and holiness can be found in other religions. Of course, there was institutional support and a structure before the council. There was the Secretariat for Promoting Christian Unity, led by Cardinal Augustin Bea, and it gave the Nostra Aetate a home within the council structure. You know, we have the gathering of more than 3,000 bishops. There's so many topics. How to decide which topic should be in the agenda? We could hear the story about the Pope meeting his Jewish friend, okay? But also this structure inside the Secretariat for Promoting Christian Unity with Augustin Bea, it is a big foundation already. You have your people who will promote this topic. This Secretariat became a hub for interreligious dialogue, especially with Jewish leaders and scholars. And the council it was the first ecumenical council after the Holocaust, and the bishops could not The Shoah was a theological and moral earthquake for the entire Christianity, not only for the Catholic Church. The systematic murder of 6 million Jews raised very urgent questions about centuries of Christian anti-Judaism. Many church leaders, not only Catholics, began to recognize that Christian teaching, especially accusation of not recognizing the Messiah, of blindness, spiritual blindness of Judaism, that may have contributed to anti-Semitism. The Holocaust forced a reckoning. Could the church continue to teach that Jews were rejected by God, and in the same time speaking about love? Can we treat the others as rejected and speak, we are the messengers of love? So these questions gave the atmosphere for this declaration, but also the birth of the State of Israel in 1948. You know, the establishment of the state created a new reality. Judaism was not just a religion of the past, but of a living national and spiritual tradition. There is this enthusiasm of thousands of Jews coming here to start the new state, which was by definition a Jewish state. For Christians, especially those here, local Christians, this raised theological questions about the meaning of the Jewish return, about the covenant, about the land. However, the declaration doesn't address these issues, and I hope it will not come out in the questions, because we could stay here for the next week, day and night, discussing the implications of evangelical or Catholic Zionism and especially today. But the church had to reconsider its relationship, especially with Judaism, not as a relic of biblical times, but as something vibrant, contemporary, something that happens now. And then there is, of course, other factors, like, for example, responding to some historical realities. This is the moment of global participation of the bishops from all around the world. And I think this diversity of the bishops opens the perspectives. It's not the point of view of a small group closed in the Vatican, cardinals who barely know what's going on in other parts of the church. If you know the late Pope Francis, who always spoke about the peripheries of the church is not only present in the big gatherings and festive moments where the elite is speaking, but the church is present in every single part of the world. Like the nomination of a cardinal from Mongolia. Imagine this bishop from Mongolia, he has 1,000 Catholics there. And he was nominated by Pope Francis as a cardinal, and Pope Francis visited him and his faithful people in Mongolia itself. which at the beginning, those moments were shocking, but this is the church. It exists all over the world. Let's see the perspective. I think this broadens the point of view. This is why this spirit of dialogue, debate was possible. But in the post-war years, Jewish-Christian dialogue began to flourish. This is especially in Europe and North America. There is scholars, theologians, and lay leaders from both communities who began to meet, study, and reflect together. And these encounters helped the church leaders, to see Judaism not as a failed religion, but as a partner in faith and in ethics. And we are in the 60s, the time of global changes. And that's the last point that I want to raise about the context. The 60s is the time of decolonization, is the time of civil rights movements, is a growing awareness of religious pluralism. And the church recognized that it could not longer speak of other religions only in terms of inferiority, errors. You're wrong. We are the ones who have all the truth. You can only teach from us or join us. Otherwise, you are not our partners. How often this language still happens among the religious leaders? Think about your communities. I'm thinking also about some Catholic leaders who are not free from this kind of language, promoting Catholicism as the only 100% true, fullness of truth. And this language was changed during the Vaticanum II, especially in Nostra Aetate. Nostra Aetate responded to this global shift by affirming the spiritual value found in other faiths, especially Judaism and Islam. Of course, I could speak about more other factors that facilitated this declaration. If I still have time, maybe just a little bit about Pope John XXIII, who was the visionary behind Vaticanum II. He was deeply moved by the horrors of the Holocaust, and he committed to Christian renewal. He initiated the council. He used the word aggiornamento, and he had personally removed the term perfides Jews from the Good Friday liturgy. A word about it, that the church on Good Friday prays for so many different groups, and there was also a prayer for Jews. And the Latin word oremus et pro perfidis Judaeis, perfides Jews. Of course, in Latin, the word perfides is faithless, unfaithful. And this was meant in the context of those who didn't recognize the Messiah. They didn't follow the faith of the first who went after Jesus as the Messiah. But this expression was absolutely unacceptable. And already before the council in 1959, the Pope personally asked to remove this expression from the prayer. And of course, mentioned here the friendship with Jewish leaders, including Jules Isaac, a French Jewish historian who met him in 1960. They had those conversations long.
Only once.
Right, but
They were hardly good friends.
right, but I think this impacts on the atmosphere when the Pope calls the council, and he has already something in his mind how to change the air. I think it's very important. Just last word about this Pope, because his name before he became Pope John XXIII was Angelo Giuseppe Roncalli, and he was a diplomat. He served as the ambassador of Vatican, the nuncio in Bulgaria, Turkey, Greece, France, and during the war, he was the apostolic delegate in Istanbul, and he took extraordinary steps to help Jews fleeing from the persecutions. He issued baptismal certificates and immigration papers, and to help Hungarian Jews to escape deportation. He intervened with governments and church authorities to save Jewish lives, including direct appeal to help 55,000 Jews who were interned in Romania. And he also spoke about returning the baptized Jewish orphans to, even if they didn't have families, to their Jewish, let's say, environment. These actions earned him recognition, and into 2011, long after he died, the International Raoul Wallenberg Foundation petitioned Vali Hashem to name him righteous among the nations. So this Pope now starts something that, being deeply affected by the Holocaust, he starts something that took place during the Vatican meeting, during the Council of Bishops. I'm thinking about and I mentioned Cardinal Bea, but also many Jewish and Christian scholars who collaborated behind the scenes. I would like to mention only Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel. His institute in the Catholic University in Lublin now brings his heritage back, showing to the world how great figure he was. So that's the background, and that's the historical context of the council.
Thank you, Father Zelasco, and I would like to ask what's the next question, both Rabbi Rosen and Kali Abu Obey, and that is about the reaction, both the Jewish reaction and Muslim reaction to this to the Nostra Aetate. And of course, if you have comments or Father Zelensky will answer, you may answer as well. I just introduced both Rabbi Rosen and Kali Abu Obey. Rabbi David Rosen, former international director of interreligious affair at the American Jewish Committee, is a leading global figure in interfaith dialogue. He currently serves as special interfaith advisor to the Abrahamic Family House in Abu Dhabi, and is a member of the Chief Rabbinate of Israel's Commission for Interreligious Dialogue. Rabbi Rosen is international president of Religions for Peace, honorary president of the International Council of Christians and Jews, and a member of the Elijah Interfaith Institute's Board of World Religion Leaders. A former chief rabbi of Ireland, he played a key role in the establishment of full diplomatic relations between the State of Israel and the Holy See. In recognition of his contribution to interreligious reconciliation, Rabbi Rosen was made a Knight of the Order of St. Gregory the Great by Pope Benedictus XVI, and a commander of the British Empire by Queen Elizabeth II. Qadi Muhammad Abdul Bey is a senior member of the Sharia Court of Appeal in Jerusalem and one of the leading contemporary figures in the field of Islamic law and jurisprudence in Israel. He has served in the Israeli judiciary for over 2 decades, presiding over 10,000 of cases, cases in personal status, family inheritance, and property law. His judicial philosophy combines fidelity to classical Islamic legal tradition with a forward-looking understanding of social reality, justice, and ethical responsibility. In addition to his judicial service, Qadi Abu Baid is a distinguished academic and legal scholar holding a master's degree in Islamic law and jurisprudence and nearing completion of his PhD at Najaf National University. He lectures at Tel Aviv University and other academic institutions on topics such as trust, work, medical ethics, and bioethics. His scholarly work includes numerous published articles in Arabic, Hebrew, and English, as well as authorship in international bodies such as WACF as a form of trust in prime jurisprudence, London. Beyond academic and the bench, he plays an active role in public service, interfaith dialogue, and ethical governance, promoting tolerance, human dignity, and professional excellence in the legal and social spheres.
This one is good. This one.
Yeah, it worked.
Thank you. Well, I definitely need to shorten my presentation after Father Piotr's because about half of what I wanted to say he said. He said it very well. So let me, as we've heard a few stories, let me tell you a story about a gentleman who was hawking his wares around Europe in 1904. His name was Theodor Herzl, and he was trying to get support for an enterprise to establish an independent Jewish homeland in the land of Israel. And he met with various leaders. And he was also enabled to meet with the Pope at that time, Pope Pius X. And he put forward his proposal suggesting that a Jewish state would would guarantee the protection of Christian holy sites, and it would be in the interests of the Holy See, therefore, to support it. And Theodor Herzl records in his diaries the response of Pope Pius X, who apparently said to him, "I cannot support this initiative because you have not recognized our Lord. I cannot prevent the Jews from returning to Palestine, but if they do, our priests will be ready with holy water to baptize them all." Now, Pius X wasn't a particularly nasty character. On the contrary, most popes wouldn't have given Theodor Herzl the time of day. He graciously received him. He was simply articulating what was the Christian norm, the normative teaching, which was the Jews had failed to recognize the true dispensation. They had been rejected by God, replaced by the church, and the only reason they survived was to wander around in their own humiliation to testify to what happens to you when you don't accept the Christian dispensation. That was the normative approach. And Pius X was simply telling Theodor Herzl the way he understood it and the way the church taught it. When you put that in perspective, you understand what a revolution Nostra Aetate was. In 1986, John Paul II visited the synagogue in Rome and described the Jews as the dearly beloved elder brother of the church. And in a personal conversation, I think I met with him maybe a dozen times, he said to me, "You know, I have said, the Jews are the dearly beloved elder brother church of the original covenant, never broken and never to be broken." Now, he could articulate that because of Nostra Aetate. Nostra Aetate repudiated many bad things, repudiated three main things. One was the idea that the Jews were collectively guilty for the death of Jesus. The other was the idea that the Jews were cursed or rejected by God. And it also rejected anti-Semitism. But it affirmed things which for us are pretty obvious today, but were not then, even 60 years ago. That Jesus and the apostles were Jews, that their Jewish identity was very important to them, that the Christian faith is nurtured by Judaism and by the Jewish people, and therefore it draws, I use the language of Nostra Aetate, draws its sustenance from the Jewish people, that we have what Nostra Aetate calls a shared patrimony, and that therefore we need to develop dialogue and understanding and studies together. But perhaps of all the dramatic things that Nostra Aetate states is its use of the verse from Romans 9. It could have used a number of different verses. First of all, it's fascinating that in this text, as opposed to any other conciliar text, you have no reference to any pre-conciliar documentation. Nothing in terms of the whole history of the church, except going back to Scripture. And then this verse is chosen, which says what? It quotes Paul as saying, theirs, the Jewish people, is the sonship, the glory, the covenants. God does not go back on his promises and does not renege on his gifts. In other words, it affirmed the special relationship between God and the Jewish people. That was very dramatic. Now, many Jews at the time were disappointed. They were expecting something a little more explicit. But it was very difficult for the church at that time. Whether John the 23rd, who, as Father Piotr mentioned, as Angelo Roncalli had done so much, and even then, after he was elected Pope, to the surprise of many people, because yes, he'd been the delegate in Turkey where he'd done a lot during the Shoah, he was also the nuncio in France in 1947 when the elections at the United Nations took place, when the vote at the United Nations took place with regards to the establishment of a Jewish state alongside an Arab state, and was very seminal in enlisting Catholic support, especially in Latin American countries, for that particular decision. In fact, without his involvement, the State of Israel might never have been formally initiated by the United Nations. And anti-Semitism, as Father Piotr mentioned, really touched him. And according to his secretary, who became Cardinal Loris Capovilla, it was his intention, actually, to address the whole question of relationship with the Jews and even to establish relations with the State of Israel. But he didn't even live to see the promulgation of Nostra Aetate. While he was responsible for the schema that he gave Cardinal Bea, as we heard, the responsibility to be able to organize and to advance, and that's why giving it to Cardinal Bea resulted in a very interesting contemporary structure of the relationship of the church to the Jewish people, which I'll come back to. Nevertheless, it was certainly his meeting with Jules Isaac that clinched the deal. Jules Isaac had met with Pope Pius XII in 1949 and had tried to convince him of the importance to address the whole question of anti-Semitism. Jules Isaac, in addition to being a very eminent Jewish figure in the life of French Jewry, had lost both his wife and his daughter in the Shoah. And therefore it was a personal wound. And he wrote this book, Jesus Israel, which was really the first significant documented analysis of the sources of anti-Semitism within the teaching of the Christian church, which every good Christian today would admit is a scandal. In fact, Nostra Aetate's repudiation of the idea of collective Jewish guilt for the death of Jesus is already within the Council of Trent, which also said you can't hold any particular community responsible for it. For if this is part of God's salvation for humanity, then how does it make sense to hold anybody guilty for it in that sense? So, but nevertheless, while the church had its official teaching, it wasn't always implemented. And while there were those that recognized the scandal of anti-Semitism, it didn't necessarily stop it being acted upon, both by the rank and file and by often the people in positions of authority within it. So this was something that touched Angelo Roncalli, who's to become John the 23rd, greatly. And after he was elected, there's a famous story amongst Roman Jews of how, as he's driving along the Lungotevere, the street along the Tiber, just nearby the synagogue, on a Saturday morning, Jews were going to prayer, and he stopped his car and the entourage, and he got out and he blessed them. And that's a famous story in the life of Roman Jewry, already indicating that this was a man who was going to change things in relation to Jews and Judaism. But certainly, Jules Isaac's presentation of a litany of the sources of what he then called and coined the term l'enseignement du pré, which is therefore translated in English as the teaching of contempt, had an enormous effect. And as I say, he gave that responsibility to Cardinal Bea. Cardinal Bea had already been given responsibility for dealing with relations with other Christians. And as he had this additional responsibility, when the dicastery for Christian unity was established, his responsibility for relations with the Christians remained. And therefore, the Commission for Religious Relations with the Jews, as it became called, was housed within the Pontifical Dicastery for Christian Unity. This is really interesting, because you have today another dicastery, which is responsible now for the 60th anniversary celebrations in Rome, that is called the Pontifical Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue. And it is responsible for relations with all the other religions of the world, except for the Jews. Now, some people think that it's insulting that the Council for the Religious Relations with the Jews is in the Dicastery for Christian Unity. But in fact, the history of it goes back to Cardinal Bea. And after Cardinal Bea was succeeded by Cardinal Johannes Willebrands, Cardinal Willebrands approached the Jewish organizations and said, look, there's now this new Dicastery for Interreligious Relations. You can be part of it, but if you are, you'll be one amongst many. And you might get lost in there. Here, with us, you have a special status, and we affirm the unique relationship between Christianity and Judaism. And I recommend you stay here. And the Jews accepted his recommendation. And that's a testimony to not only to the amazing revolution in terms of the approach of the church towards Jews and Judaism, but to the sensitivity of the church towards Jews and Judaism. We have now had 4 popes who have condemned anti-Semitism as a sin against God and man, have affirmed that it is totally incompatible with Christian faith. You cannot be a Christian, a real Christian, and be an anti-Semite, they have all said. And we have had now, hopefully this Pope Leo will be the fourth, but we've had 3 popes who have visited the state of Israel and shown its respect for its highest elected officials as well as its religious leadership, pursuant to the establishment of full diplomatic relations with the state of Israel. We've now had, I think, 8 ambassadors in Rome. That is a dramatic transformation from the words of Pope Pius X to Theodore Herzl. It's a sign of the amazing transformation. There is still a way to go, as Father Piotr has mentioned. Still, the Church has not seriously addressed the theological implications of the state of Israel. And obviously, politics has an enormous impact on that. We cannot ignore the fact that the vast majority of the faithful in the Holy Land are part and parcel of Palestinian society, or at least of Arab society, and then most of them define themselves as the Palestinians. It would also, this issue is not only a matter of consideration and of right responsibility of the just and righteous obligations of the Church, but is also a reflection of the amazing efforts to prevent the promulgation of Nostra Aetate. Nostra Aetate did not have an easy journey. Cardinal Bea, poor guy, was continuously facing obstacles and bitter fights over this particular proposal of the document. And these oppositions were coming from various sources. They were coming above all from the churches within Arab countries, within the Muslim world, who were scared that this would be seen as having political implications and would reverberate upon their own communities. There were also those that were opposed to it theologically, that felt the Jews are cursed, and they should be recognized as cursed, and there shouldn't be any attempt to deny that. And then there were, of course, the leadership of the church from the East, who said, well, it's all very nice about the Jews, but there are no Jews around here. We have to deal with Hindus and Buddhists and Zoroaster and all these other people. We've got to get them in the picture. And in order to be able to deal with the whole question of the relationship with the Jews, the church had to deal with its relationship with all other religions. So look at this amazing fact. It's not just the church was seeking to heal its relationship with the Jews, which it did. Nothing is ever complete, but a very dramatic revolution. Through its effort to want to address that relationship, it started to address its relationship with the whole world, with all the religions of the world. Thanks to its need to address its relationship with the Jews, it came to address its relationship with Muslims, with Hindus, with Christians, with the rest of the world. That's an amazing tribute to Nostra Aetate. And it's an amazing tribute to how profound the relationship is between the church and the Jewish people, even to people who are not conscious of it. For as Nostra Aetate puts it, it is at the very root of sustenance of the Christian church. Pope Benedict XVI gave a very profound address when he visited the camps in Auschwitz. Pope Benedict XVI was not adequately appreciated by the world at large, and people generally did not read his texts because they were too good. They were not sound bites. They were serious documents. And in his presentation on Auschwitz, he points out that, in fact, while these are not his words, this is my comment, while the Shoah, as Father Piotr has said, was not just a tragedy for the Jews, but first and foremost a tragedy for the Jews, it was also a scandal for the Christians, because it was perpetrated overwhelmingly by ostensibly baptized Christians in ostensibly Christian lands. But what Benedict XVI points out is that even if there was the guilt of Christians, in fact, the Nazi ideology in seeking to attack and exterminate the Jews is actually directing itself at the very taproot of Christianity. And that, in fact, the whole ideology of the Shoah is something that seeks to undermine the very essence of Christianity itself. That's a very profound educational lesson. So these lessons have still got to permeate a lot of the world. I still travel the world and find places where not only the rank and file, but even bishops don't really know the content of Nostra Aetate. There is still a very big educational challenge for the church itself. But it's part of an amazing process. Nothing in human history can compare with this situation where a particular institution and a world faith, saw a particular people as rejected by God, in league with the devil, responsible for the evils and the tragedies that people experience, and now has gone to see it as a dearly beloved elder brother of the original covenant, never broken and never to be broken. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Morgan, and Father Morgan, please.
Hi, good evening for everybody. I'm a little bit shocked because of the church 1900 years to recognize or to understand Jesus. So Jesus was calling for peace and unity, and unfortunately, for 1900 years was the first step toward the others, and especially for Muslims and Christians and Jews and others. We don't have any enmity in Islam with the other religions. We don't look to them in the doctrine of enmity. We look to the others. We recognize Judaism from first day and Christianity. So to have such a long time in order to recognize that Moses and the Jews are believing in the same God that the Christians are believing in, and Muslims are believing in the one God, the same God that Abraham and the Jews and Christians believing in, took them a long time. And there was a lot of things from since the beginning of Christianity until today. We have the Crusades, and it was led by the Pope, and we have other wars, and we have the Shoah and other things. So we have to do and work hard. Christians have to work hard, actually. I will say sincerely. We Muslims also need to work hard, and Jews also have to work hard for our unity. But the thing have to go beyond the boundaries of the church, because when you are started like 6 years ago with this fantastic idea and this great document and statement, I think that we need now deeds, not only words. We need to do something, because a result of 1900 years of enmity between Christianity and Judaism and Islam, I will not blame only the Christians, but I will blame ourselves as well. We need to work hard, because when you see the stereotype of a Muslim, and whenever you hear a Muslim in the Western world, you think of a terrorist. And it is in the movies, in the media, and everywhere. Islam is a danger for humanity, and it is not. So this is a result of 1900 years of enmity, and we have to work hard in order to get out of the boundaries of the church and the boundaries of the walls and the boundaries of what we have done. We need to work hard, actually, because we don't have such an enmity with the Jews. We respect them. They are part of the family of the believers. We as Muslims, we have many common things with the Jews. And even when the Jews fast the day of Kippur, we Muslims fast the day of Kippur, because the day of Kippur is the 10th day of the first month of the Jewish calendar. And we fast the 10th day of the first month of the Muslim calendar, because it is the same calendar. So, yes, it's changing, because in Judaism you have synchronized that, but we still fast the 10th day of the first month of the Muslim year. So we have also many common things with Christianity. We recognize Jesus from the first day that he's a prophet. Yes, Christians maybe consider him not as a prophet, but as a God or a son of God. But at the same time, we consider Mary to be one of it is the woman that we respect, the woman that the Quran gave a whole chapter in the name of Mary. So such a document, it's maybe I will say it's too little, but it's not. It's a great document, as David Lozelle said. It is a document that brings to change, to movement in the church, because prior to such document, the environment where Christians were living, especially the church, it was different from what we are seeing today. So I will please such a document. I have seen that the Sheikh of Al-Azhar, 6 years ago, met with the Pope in Abu Dhabi, and they were discussing the relations between Muslims and Christians. And it is a result of this great document. And I've seen also that the Prince Muhammad in Jordan, he has said he has given an initiative which is very similar to such document, which is a kalimatun sawa, which is the same word with the one word. And we have it in the Quran. The Quran saying, call those the people of the books, the Christians and the Jews, come to one word, the word that we all of us will worship one God. And this is the point, that the oneness of God, which is the one word, can collect us. So the word that we are not conflicting about, the word that we are agreeing of, this word must collect us and unite us. I believe such a document will have more impact, but I think that we shall not stop at that document. We have to make more deeds and the practical deeds in order to bring Christianity, Judaism, and Islam toward more unity and more stability and more peace between them, because we are one of the biggest religions in the world. Christianity and Islam. Judaism is fine. It's tiny, but it is very influential. It is the oldest one. So we have three brothers or three sisters. We have seen two sisters there. They have to be three. Thank you.
Thank you, all commentators, and Rabbi Jonathan Sachs said that the new fight is the new path is the fighting secularity, and this is a common war, as you say, for all religions. And I would like to add, so fast forwarding this the Nostra Aetate to our current days, I would like you to comment on this view that we should be united in fighting secularity more than fighting among ourselves as religious people.
Well, I can start with a story. When during our interreligious activities in the Negev, you might Google the Interfaith initiative of the Negev. Sometimes it happened that we were visiting schools, and a priest, a rabbi, and a sheikh, Muslim sheikh, visit a school, and children have questions, and sometimes these questions were really, really tough. And once the question was like, how do you call Jesus the Son of God? Is not Adam the Son of God, the only one? And then the rabbi helped to answer the question, and he said, but Adam didn't have the belly button. And for children, it's enough, no? You don't need to explain theology. Oh, okay. So during those meetings, we did feel, especially with teenagers, you'd bet the 12th grade, many hostility against all religions, standing together as religious authorities, Jewish, Muslim, and Christians, in front of the world, who says, you are responsible for all wars in the world. You better than the others. You, because you think your prophet replaced the others. He's the last one. You, because you say, no, our prophet was the biggest. You, because you say, no, these other two are false. Okay? So this is the attitude of the modern secular world, especially here in Israel, maybe only in the South, I don't know here, but we often felt like being on the same line of the discussion against young people who say we don't need any of the religions. So if you ask whether Judaism, Islam, and Christianity should work together against the secularization, I don't know. We recognize also people who don't believe. We have a lot of respect. If faith is a gift of God, if faith is a grace, then who am I to judge those who don't believe? May I be lucky to have faith, or maybe my parents helped me, maybe my family helped me. There's so many factors I may have had more or less faith during my life. But who am I to judge people who don't have faith? And they are seeking and they are looking for. And we, as religious people, sometimes don't convince them to be interested in religions because they don't see that love, they don't see that happiness. So why to be religious? And I think in this case, maybe this is our task, to work on the witness together, to say like searching for God, searching for meaning of life, searching for answers is worth it. Okay? Do not stay in your bubble of the world, mostly digital world, that doesn't ask questions, that doesn't want to know about the meaning of life, that doesn't want to search whether communication with God is possible. And it is us to give the witness probably to the secular world without judging and without saying we are better. No, we are not. We are maybe more lucky. We are maybe more, it happens that we have, maybe it happens to us, but not to you. But I'm not better if you don't believe in anything. I'm not better. But we can give the witness of how deep and profound happiness comes from the searching of God, not from finding Him. From time to time, from finding God also, if you're more lucky, but also from searching for Him. So that would be my answer, with a lot of respect for don't believe and who are not religious.
Thank you very much. I do feel that for your answer that as a rabbi, I do think that you can preserve values and meaning, but we have also to preserve them, not teach them, because as a teacher, I can say it's meaningless if you don't really present those values in your everyday life and your behavior.
Well, I think that's what Father Piotr was saying.
Yeah.
I think that, when any of these kinds of discussions, we need to define our terminology. So the word secular means different things to different people in different places. In India, for example, it simply means that no one religion is imposed, and that therefore people are free to pursue their different religions. So secular simply means religious diversity there. In the West, it means more than that. But I think that many of us can acknowledge, and I would say should acknowledge, that the secular world has brought many blessings, not least of all the ability to question authority. I'm not suggesting that there should be lawlessness and that we should have anarchy, but I think that a lot of the perversion of religion in the course of history has had to do with having absolute authority. And I think part of what secularism is the empowerment of the individual. And I think a lot of that is a blessing, but some of it is a curse as well. And that is not only the breeding of a certain egocentricity, and especially, I would say, in the digital age, people therefore now being caught up in echo chambers of where they are only pursuing their own particular orientation, not open to other views and other approaches. But I would say, and this, of course, is what Father Piotr was addressing, the problem of people of a loss of meaning. In other words, people need to read Viktor Frankl a little more seriously.
Yes.
In other words, and this is ultimately what religion is meant to be. I once heard a very interesting woman reflecting part of what might be called a New Age worldview, and she described religion as food and religions as restaurants. And I think that's quite a useful metaphor, because if it's a really good restaurant, it can make food absolutely fantastic, so delectable and so wonderful. If it's a bad restaurant, it can take good food and ruin it. And I think that a secular world that challenges religion should be a healthy balance. And I think that religion has a lot to gain from an encounter with the secular world, and the secular world, I believe, has a lot to gain from an encounter with religion, giving it meaning and purpose. I think that this, exactly as Father Piotr says, it's our responsibility to be able to show young people today that there is more to life than simply material indulgence. and that therefore there are higher values to live by. And I agree entirely with you in your question that this is part of the critical importance of interfaith relations, is to demonstrate that we are together in pursuing the values that we profess commitment to, the value of the pursuit of peace, of justice, of righteousness, of the dignity of the individual, the sanctity of human life. When we are together in affirming that, we are not only overcoming the prejudices, we are greater than the sum of our different parts. And I think we are giving people a reason to think twice as to about what the content and direction of their lives are.
Thank you very much. Please.
I don't think that the only way that we have always to use is to find your enemy and to fight with your enemy. We still use all terminology because, as Rabbi David said, we get a lot of good things from secularism, and I think that as a human being, we don't have to always think about fighting. We have to find a path how to reach others and how to convince others and how to make a dialogue with others, not to find a way how to segregate ourselves from the others and find always the points that we are not agreeing on. I think that Islam in general look to the man. There is a Malihu that people are brothers, and our enemy is the Satan, the devil. Our enemy is not the layman, the other person, despite the fact that he might believe something different. But if he believes in something different, doesn't make him enemy, makes him a person that needs your advice, not your fight. When you are looking to the other, that you have to look in the way that you are mercy him, the way that you will convey the message of Allah to him. You are a man who have to convey the message of God to everybody. So you look to him not in a way that you have to fight him or to enforce him to believe in your beliefs, but you look to the way that he's your brother. He's the one that you are hoping that he will follow the true path, the path of the God. This is the way we have to see the others. Secularism is not a person, it is ideology. It's the way that people think how to live. It's a way of life. It's in some ways they are anti-religion, but I think that if we reach the point that secularism will reach and will be aggressive in such a way that will prevent us of calling and expressing our religious views freely, in this point we have to stop them, but not to start a fight against them because they believe in such and such thing. I think that they are our brothers, and we have to look to them as John, the prophet John. Yahya was a mercy man, the man who full of mercy. Even he was going to the top of mountains and feeding the animals, the wild animals, as mentioned in an Islamic way. So John was a person of mercy, was feeding wild animals. Let me go on the step of John, and we have to feed also not wild animals, our brothers as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all of you. Just last remark in this topic. As a woman, I do appreciate the contribution of secularism to the equality of women. So this is a good point. And I accept what Kadia said, not fighting, but I think helping. And said that the other commentators, Reverend Rosen and Father Zelasco, pointed out that we have something to give to the world, and we have some responsibility in giving the world, and especially young people, showing them a way, not their way, but a way, and some values that can be useful for them for their future lives. Thank you all. We're now going to the food, not to the restaurant. We have a break? Not yet. Okay, not yet. Okay,
yet.
sorry.
Sorry. In fact, Naomi, oh dear, the Zoom has,
Maybe it's not.
I hope it's still on. It is. That's fantastic. First of all, it's my great pleasure to thank you and honor to thank you for your wonderful contribution. Thank you, Naomi, for your moderation, and thank you each of the three of you for your great wisdom and starting us on a new way of thinking. We may have heard the history before, but we haven't thought about it through your eyes. And I think that's exactly the message of Nostra Aetate, to learn to start to see the world through the eyes of others. And as always, David, Mohammed, fantastic contribution to our thoughts and to our feelings. Being together. Being together as religious people, especially religious leaders, I'm representing at the moment Praying Together in Jerusalem, which happens to occur on the first Thursday of the month, every month. We've been going for a decade now, and we're very pleased to be able to continue praying together in Jerusalem as part of this event. I'm going to invite each of our religious leaders to offer a prayer, including Naomi, to offer a prayer that will help us think of both our similarities, our common humanity, as Paddy Abu Ben said, our common humanity, but also our distinction, our differences, because in praying together in Jerusalem, we not only pray together, but we pray side by side with respect for the distinctions, the differences. As Jews, we play like Jews, as Muslims like Muslims, and as Christians like Christians. And we often have
There's one of the microphones is given an interference. Can we just check all the mics are off?
This one is good.
It's off. You need to turn them off because it can.
But this one works.
No, is it working now?
But this one's working now, right?
Yeah, it's just I think
Thank you.
people in the back are hearing some
Like that. Thank you. So I have it better now. So praying together in Jerusalem encourages us to pray side by side with respect for difference, as well as recognizing that the address of our prayers is the same. All our prayers are headed upward in the same direction. So I'm going to invite each of our panelists to open praying together in Jerusalem for this month, the month of November. And I will say that some of them are regulars, and we value their contribution on a regular basis. And some of them, Naomi, this is your first time offering a prayer for praying together in Jerusalem. Are you ready to lead off with a prayer?
Yeah, I'll start.
Thank
So
you.
I'll start in Hebrew. What comes to my mind is what we say at the end of prayer. So shalom במרומיו וברחמיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל. And then we say, and please say אמרו amen, say amen. So I'll just translate what you wanted to say to your God Almighty from the above will give us peace. And all of us, to the children of Israel and to the entire world. And then we say amen.
Thank you.
Can we use the other mic?
Yeah, can we
try
take
the other one? We can stop the. Try one of these. See?
Thank you. It is much better. I do apologize.
Say much better.
I thought they would use the mic. Turn that one off, yeah.
We'll try. What I didn't mention is the Praying Together in Jerusalem is not only a live event, but we have an international audience on the Zoom. That's why I'm running around with the computer. And on Facebook, I always give a special call out to Moshe in Uganda, who has no access to Zoom, but watches us regularly every month on Facebook. So this event today is streamed out with Praying Together in Jerusalem on Zoom and on Facebook, and that's why I'm running around with the computer. So I'm going to invite Mohammed. Would you offer the next prayer, please?
Yeah, I will offer it in Arabic and English.
Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. The messenger of Allah has believed in what was revealed to him from his Lord, and so have the believers. All of them have believed in Allah, His angels, His books, and His messengers, saying, we make no distinction between any of His messengers. And they say, we hear and we obey. Your forgiveness, our Lord, to you is the final return.
Yeah.
One of the most well-known verses in the Hebrew Bible, and I imagine most of you know it also as a song, are the opening words of Psalm 133. Hine matov u'ma na'im shevet achim gam yachad. This phrase, which I'm going to translate in a moment, expresses the idea of amity, of people coming together, dwelling together, and therefore is very suitable for our gathering. It is often translated as, behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers dwell together. But if we look at the Hebrew verse, that's not exactly what it says. If that was what it said, it would be Hine matov u'ma na'im shevet achim yachad. But there's another word there, gam, which means also. We need to translate it, behold, how good and pleasant it is when brothers and sisters also dwell together. What does that also mean? It means not just sitting together, but that each one, with her or his own identity, as Peter described praying together, is able to sit together with the other in addition to the other, being there as the other is according to her or his own being and tradition. And that is the beauty of the message of Nostra Aetate, the beauty of our gathering today, and the beauty of praying together in Jerusalem. So my prayer is, may we continue to learn and to grow. For each other's differences and celebrating our togetherness.
I'm sorry, I will not be very original. I would like to pray a very known Christian prayer. It's something that unites Christians who are Catholics and not Catholics. This is the prayer called the Lord's Prayer. And I know that maybe among us sitting here, we might have different idea about God being our Father, but I will come back to your words about being brothers and sisters. If we are brothers and sisters, what unites us? Maybe God Himself. So forgive me to use this phrase that says, our Father who art in heaven, but this is a prayer which not only unites Christians. I think if you recognize that we are brothers and sisters, then everything changes in a minute. You don't feel like you're better. You don't feel like you're superior. And you also recognize the fact that even in the best families, sometimes brothers and sisters have conflicts. The point is to recognize and to say, I'm sorry, and to say, let's start again, and to say, let's be a family. And if God can unite us, it's about the daily bread, that our very existence. It's about forgiving those who are against us and asking for forgiveness. So this is the prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Amen. Amen. So normally in praying together in Jerusalem, we begin with learning, with shared learning, and we complete the gathering with prayer. Today, to take advantage of this wonderful panel, we've begun with prayer.
I always
So it's with great pleasure that I invite Therese Andrevon Gottstein to introduce us to the main contribution the Nostra Aetate made to the world and to the implications of it for us. But not only. Therese, it's over to you.
Peta, how much time I have exactly to make sure that it's not too long or too short?
Can I mute you?
How much?
Yes, you may mute me, of course.
Peta, you hear me? How much time I have now? How many minutes I can speak? 10 minutes maximum. Okay. So hello everyone. Okay, I said 10 minutes maximum. Okay, I see. Hello everyone. So Nostra Aetate first, it's important to know what Nostra Aetate means in Latin. It is our time, in our time. This title is very important because something happened in our time in the Catholic Church 60 years ago. So what happened in this council? It's important to see the larger context. Not only after the war, but especially after the Second World War, a new Pope, John 23, and this new Pope has this intuition that the Catholic Church has to make peace with the world. What I mean that before maybe about a century, maybe a little less, the Catholic Church was very concerned by all the modernity of the world, all the new ideas, the new science. And it was for the Church something dangerous. And the Pope knew that the Church have to be for the world and not against the world. So he decided to begin a new council, and it was a surprise for everyone. It was not in the plan of the people, the bishops and the church, but John the 21st knew that in our time, it is important now to make peace with the world, that the church has to serve the world and not to be in a position to defend herself. So this council, the purpose of these councils, it was unity. It was very important, the unity of the whole humanity, the unity inside the church between the Protestant, Catholic, Orthodox, unity of humankind. And because this theme, this issue of unity, it was also the way to define what is the purpose, what the church has to bring to the world. And the council was like that now, begin in that idea. What happened also that the Pope, after the war, was very concerned at what happened with the Jews during the war. And he has an idea that something has to be done to change also the mind and the mind of people, of Christian people towards the Jews. And as you remember, the Jews were deified, and the Jews are being rejected by God because they didn't accept Jesus as the Messiah. So all this way of speaking on the Jews and also the liturgy against the Jews, it has John 23 knows that something has to change. It's not possible anymore to say that. Not only because it's not politically correct after the Shoah to say that, but because something was not right according to the gospel too. So John 23, has a very important meaning with the Jews. The name was Jules Isaac. He was a French historian. And this French historian lost his family in Auschwitz. And he was also a man that studied what happened in the church to be anti-Semite. It's not possible for a Christian to be anti-Semite according to the gospel. And this Jules Isaac met the Pope, and he speak with the Pope about the possibility for the council to write a text about the Jews and the relationship between church and Jews. So the council began with this idea to write a draft about Jews. But after it was at 62. But after 1 year, some bishops say, okay, it's important to speak about Jews, but why not also to open that to the other religions? So the next step of this draft was to open also the church, to open the bishops to the other religions, to speak in another way also for the other religions. What was the position of the church towards the religions before? It was essentially a position of missionary. It means that for the doctrine, Catholic doctrine, all the other religions almost was pagan. And the people have to go out from paganism to go in the true. The true was the Catholic faith. But with, it was a process also to see that in other religions, every time, in our time, Nostra Aetate begin with that every religions try to be with God and to find a meaningful for the life, for suffering, and to help people to go to this life with meaning, the meaning of the faith, to search the light and the truth. And that is very important. And you cannot say only that now it is paganism, because everyone, if he really want to find the truth and to find the way to be in relation with God and with the humankind in this research of unity, you cannot say that these people are very bad and they go to fire after the death, and only the people who get to be by types, they go to heaven and they have the whole light of God. So what was very important in Nostra Aetate? First, towards the Jews, the church reject this accusation of deicide. The church reminds that Catholic faith is rooted in Jewish faith, and that God never rejects the Jews. So, and that the church and the Jews have in common the Bible. Not all the Bible, of course, not the New Testament, but what's called the Old Testament. So something that we have to put together between us, to study and to be in dialogue about this Bible that the Christian and the Jews have in common. So it was very, very important, because after the liturgy also changed, and the way for the Christian to see now that Jesus was a Jew, and the Jews are no enemy of the faith, of the Catholic faith, and all these very bad things that during 2,000 years the Christian said about the Jews. First. The second point was the other religions, that other religions has also light, and the other religions also teach to find the good way of life, to serve the other, and also every faith has light. Every faith is a way to be in connection with God, and if if now, what is the consequence for us, for the dialogue in interfaith religions? First, this idea of unity, because we always want to find a good way to be in connection with God, and God is one. So we are not, there is not two sort of humanity. These are not the people who are in the good way because they believe in Jesus, and the bad way that they didn't believe in Jesus. We are one family, big family, and every faith tries to find the good way to be in connection with God, and also to be in good connection with the humanity. So this is very important, because we can be in dialogue in such way that we all, if we are very sincere, we want to serve God, to find God, and to help people also to find God, and to be in good relation with the other. So it's very positive. It's a positive way to be in connection with other religions in everyone. As of course, Nostra Aetate also is a text of 65, and inside you still have some superiority of the Christian faith on the other faiths. But you know, at that time, for the bishops, it was so new to begin to have dialogue with other religions that after Nostra Aetate, during 60 years, people and the church also give other texts and give us opportunity to find a new way to be in connection with the Jews, and to be also in new connection with the other religions. Not only to be missionary, to try to make anyone Christian, and to baptize the whole world, but really to be in dialogue, to be also to transform together this world, and to help this world to be more family, believing in one God. And I think that this was the beauty of this very important change of the Catholic Church. And this text of Nostra Aetate also inspired the other religions, the Protestant, for example, and the other people. Nostra Aetate now is like a light also, a text that is very important, not only for the Catholic Church, but also for other people. So my conclusion is that in our time today, we can continue to find together in dialogue, to find together the only one God, and to try to help each other also to be enlightened by the other religion, to serve the Lord, the world, and not only it was the purpose of the Vatican II, not only to be concentrated of what the church need, but what the world need. And it's that because of that, it was possible also to be in dialogue with other religions, but because every religion tried to serve the world, and not only to serve itself. So I think that it is my conclusion, and maybe I speak enough time. It's okay? Okay. I don't hear you, Peter.
Okay. So I think that Therese's final words, that Nostra Aetate can lead us in the direction of not asking what does the church need, but asking what the world needs. It's a most beautiful mantra for us in the interreligious world. And I'm so grateful, Therese, for that beautiful contribution to our thinking. And I'm going to use it if you don't mind. And it's now my pleasure to invite Hannah. It's going to take us one sec, because I have to turn off my sound here, and hopefully this will.
A different point of view, the human interfaith dialogue and interfaith solutions today. So we have with us representatives from different initiatives. Each of them have their own approach. It's not a debate. Everyone's here to think together about how each approach can contribute for us moving forward to better interfaith relations. I'll just have to say that in the middle of this panel, we're going to have to present some clips And I may have to go over there, sorry, whoever's sitting there, to open it and adjust the volume. I'm sorry about that. So sorry for disturbing. But other than that, I want to introduce our facilitator for this panel. If you give me 1 second. Okay. Derek Gopher is an independent freelance educator who teaches the history of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, biblical geography, and geopolitical history of Israel and Palestine to religious leaders of all faiths, educators, university students, and seminarians from around the world. Born and raised in New Hampshire, but based in Jerusalem for the last 30 years, he teaches throughout Israel and Palestine and has served as scholar in residence in many communities across North America and Europe. Having raised his 3 children in the Peace for Peace movement, Derek now enjoys spending his free time as a peace activist, zero waste advocate. He is genealogist. We have so much time. Vision chief and proud leader, vision chef, and proud leader of the movement towards sustainable tourism. This event is proud to present the Interfaith Encounter Association, where he has served as the group coordinator and board member for many years. Derek, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Carolina. I think we can say good evening. Pretty safe to say good evening at this point. Yes, good evening to all. Another 5 minutes. Okay, good afternoon. Here with the clock. It's lovely to see you all. It's an honor to be here. Thank you very much. I'll just share before we get going that I literally just pulled into Jerusalem from leading a multi-faith bike tour across the Negev desert from Jerusalem to Eilat. And it was an absolutely fascinating experience. And I ran to get back to make sure I got back to Jerusalem in time for this wonderful event. It's such an honor to be a part of this experience. We'll get started by introducing our panelists, who will say, I'll give a little bit of background into who they are as individuals, and then we'll give each panelist an opportunity to say few words, 5 minutes or less, about the organizations that we all represent and the work that we do. And then from there, we'll let the conversation go into sort of specific questions regarding how the process of living Nostra Aetate has affected our work in interfaith, multi-faith environments here in the land. So we'll start with Peta on my right. Peta Jones Pellach is a trained educator and the director of educational activities at the Elijah Interfaith Institute. She is the co-founder and moderator of Praying Together in Jerusalem, which you have now witnessed live, as well as the secretary of the Jerusalem Rainbow Group for Jewish-Christian Encounter and Dialogue. She's also a member of the Alliance for Middle East Peace's Women's Leadership Network, and an activist with Women Wage Peace, as well as a blogger on the Times of Israel website. In her spare time, Peta plays competitive Scrabble, Game On, and enjoys Israeli folk dancing. Peta, I'm going to turn it over to you to share a little bit about the work that you're involved with.
Thanks, Jared, and I'm going to try to be brief to leave more time for the others, so stop me if I'm not so brief. Praying Together in Jerusalem, we'll start there because you've seen it. About 12 years ago, I was representing the Elijah Interfaith Institute, who employ me, as at a conference which was called Envisioning Our Future at the Tantur Institute. And Father John Paul's predecessor, Father Russ McDougall, had just arrived, and we found ourselves in an open space exercise saying, we have to pray side by side. And that was the start of Praying Together in Jerusalem, and it's a wonderful partnership. And we do it every month, and we've even done it, and we'll come back to this, since COVID and since this war. We haven't stopped praying side by side. And when people ask me, what do? I actually believe prayer is doing something. So that's part of it. In fact, the Elijah Interfaith Institute is not an organization that just brings people together for encounter. That's a terrific and important aspect of interfaith work. But it's essentially an educational and academic organization that brings together world religious leaders and brings together scholars of religion, but we call them scholar practitioners. In other words, I'm not so interested in somebody who's an expert in Christianity but doesn't live a Christian life. I'm interested in somebody who's an expert in the religion, but also lives that life. So we bring together academics and religious leaders. That means it's a world international organization. Not so much of our work is focused here, but Praying Together in Jerusalem is here. And the other thing that we do right here in the Holy Land is run a summer school. It's been going for many years, and it brings together students of theology and religious leaders and activists together for an annual summer school. And again, we've had to move on to Zoom when there's a war, when there's COVID, but we don't stop. The other organization which I officially represent here is the Rainbow Group, which is a direct result of Nostra Aetate. 60 years ago, a group of religious leaders, it started with Jewish religious leaders and scholars, and mainly from the Hebrew University, said, the Catholic Church has done this amazing thing. What's the Jewish response to it? We have to start talking. And from 60 years ago, the Rainbow Group brought together religious leaders and academics, and we haven't stopped. We meet every month, and I describe it as the intellectual highlight of my month. When we get together with religious leaders and scholars. I need to add one more thing. See, I literally, as well as figuratively, wear many hats. And I do have to say, I've subtly worn the colors of Women Wage Peace, which is another one of my organizations, because Women Wage Peace sorry, I should have said this. On October the 4th, 2023, Women Wage Peace had a huge gathering. On October the 5th, Praying Together in Jerusalem met. We'll come back to that. But Women Wage Peace recently, just 2 years ago, recognized the importance of bringing religion into peacemaking. And we've had a wonderful project to explore how religion can contribute to peacemaking. So although I'm not officially representing that organization today, I wanted to mention it because, as we've seen with the Interfaith Encounter, with the Elijah Interfaith, with Praying Together in Jerusalem, with Rainbow Group, every one of these organizations plays a different role in bringing people together. And I believe each one of them, as well as many others, have a tremendous contribution to make, because if we're really going to make peace, Elijah says sharing wisdom, fostering peace, that's our motto, but it's also got to be getting to know the other, fostering peace. It's got to be so many things. And that's why I'm honored to be able to be part of many different diverse initiatives.
I'll take it. Thank you, Peta. Our next panelist is Rabbi Therese Rosenblatt. Rabbi Therese serves as the Rosh Yeshiva, the Or Torah Stone. Robert M. Barron Machanaim is the Yeshiva, and is the head of the Or Torah Stone, Joseph and Gwendolyn Strauss Rabbinical Seminary. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
In addition, he is a co-founder and senior research fellow at the Or Torah Interfaith Center. Rabbi Rosenblatt has been deeply involved in interfaith dialogue, both in Israel and abroad, having both participated in and later facilitated in the Culture, Religion, and Conflict Resolution Seminar at Drew University in New Jersey. He was a participant in the Search for Common Ground's Leaders Interfaith Group and has taken part in numerous international interfaith initiatives. Rabbi Rosenblatt holds a Bachelor of Education with a focus on Jewish thought from Herzl College and a Master's in Jewish Philosophy from Ben-Gurion University. He lives in a flat with his wife, Turit, and their 5 children, where they are actively involved in community life. Rabbi Sarel, I invite you to share a little bit about the work that you do.
Hey, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be here among beautiful people. I feel blessed to be here. So 7 years ago, after several years in the field of interreligious dialogue and interfaith, I felt that as our religious leaders, as educator, as a rabbi in community, I saw that there is tremendous gap between what is happening inside the institutions and what is happening in the field of interfaith and interreligious dialogue. Much of that not going into the institutions. Our students not really know about what is happening around them. And also I felt that in the field there is many good people, but I felt there is no books. As a rabbi, I always look for a book to make a brave halachic decision from a Jewish perspective that can deeper the dialogue. I felt that many people work for peace, but they don't know how to make it alongside with their Jewish identity, with their Israeli identity, with their Zionist identity. And from my perspective, to be a Jew, Zionist Jew in Israel, is to dialogue, is to make peace. This is our task in the world. So we established the Interfaith Center. We'll try to do it briefly. So first, in the heart of the institute is the Bet Midrash for Judaism and humanity, which deals with all the hard questions nowadays about interreligious. What is the response on the Jewish side from Nostra Aetate? So we need to start it somewhere. We need to learn and to write the book and the books that deal with all these hard questions in order not just to make the dialogue rooted in our tradition, but also in order to take the field further, to make many rabbis and many people to join the dialogue, to join the field of interfaith, but also to take the field itself forward to the place it should be. And so we started with I just bring our two new books. One is I now had a English translation, which God Shall Be One. I think this is a kind of a Jewish Nostra Aetate, in some sense, like really, like from a Jewish, Zionist, Israeli perspective, that really love Israel state, how I see interreligious dialogue, not just as something that it's important to do, but really one of our main tasks of our generation. I really believe in that. And the second book deals with the question of minorities, non-Jews minority in a Jewish state. And I think that we, as the majority group in the country of Israel, we have lots of job to do in order to promote responsibility and partnership. So this is the core of our institute, but we also know that we have to increase our impact. So second department of our institute is the Blickley Institute, which try to increase our impact. We bring to the institute people, rabbis, leaders from our communities that have influential on the society, and to train them to know the field better, to deal with the hard question that we must to deal with, and we see our the rabbis, the educators, journalists that went through our program, like really they opened their eyes to see the other, to acknowledge that something is going around them, something huge is going around us, everyone, about, especially to be familiar with the Nostra Aetate and all the changes that's happening within Catholic Church and also in others denomination. And the third department of our institute is really to be active in the field of interreligious dialogue. Of course, with our brothers and sisters from Christianity, but also we can understand that recent years we're very involved in the interreligious between Muslims and Jews, and we have lots of initiatives also here in Israel, Palestine, but also abroad with Arab countries around us. We make vast, the most people that we can bring. And last word is that I just want you to know that for me, Nostra Aetate is a huge inspiration, and our dream and our task is to bring the Nostra Aetate between Judaism and Islam. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our next panelist, Mohammed Dajani Dawoodi. At a time when Islam is increasingly identified with violent extremism and hostility towards Christians and Jews, Professor Dajani Dawoodi advocates for an Islam that is true to its Quranic foundations, which call for freedom of religion, tolerance, reconciliation, coexistence, cooperation, compassion, empathy, and interfaith dialogue. Professor Dajani Dawoodi is a Jerusalemite scholar and a peace activist. He holds a doctorate from the University of South Carolina and another from the University of Texas at Austin. In 2007, he established the Wasatiyah Moderate Islamic Movement and the Wasatiyah Academic Institutes. And in March 2014, he was forced to resign from his posts as Rector of Libraries and founding director of the American Studies Institute at Al-Quds University for taking his students on an educational trip to the Nazi death and concentration camp in Auschwitz to teach them empathy, compassion, and tolerance. He received death threats. His car was torched. In 2014, Tufts University bestowed upon him the Dr. Jean Mayer Global Citizenship Award for his ongoing work to build peace, encourage dialogue, and find alternatives to extremism. Between 2015 and 2017, he became the Weston Fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, and in March 2023, the Austrian Parliament awarded him the Simon Wiesenthal Prize for his tireless efforts in combating anti-Semitism. In September 2023, he received the Excellence in Leadership Award from Queens College, New York University, and I think that's a lot. That's a very impressive resume. Mohammed, I would like to turn over the microphone to you to share a little bit about the work you're involved in.
Thank you. Many of you may wonder what Wasatiyah is and how it relates to Nostra Aetate. The Wasatiyah movement, founded in January 2007, is a moderate Islamic initiative that promotes tolerance, understanding, and cooperation among people of different faiths. It is the word Wasatiyah is extracted from the Quranic verse number 143 of Al-Baqarah Surah, which is the second chapter in the Quran. Sorry. Let me extract the section on Islam from Nostra Aetate, a document that promotes interfaith dialogue and understanding, and presented from an Islamic eyes. The Holy Quran teaches its followers to revere Judaism and Christianity and to respect them. The verse say, "We believe in the revelation which was revealed to us and in that which was revealed to you. Our God and your God is one, and it is to him we bow." Islam emphasizes the shared belief in the same God and the unity of all believers. It acknowledges that all faiths worship God, the creator of heaven, earth, and mankind, and strive to submit to God's will and commands, as did Abraham, peace be upon him, to whom all heavenly faiths are credited. This shared reverence for Abraham, the common patriarch, serves as a unifying thread between the three Abrahamic faiths, fostering a sense of unity and common ground. All religions value moral conduct and worship God through prayer, charity, fasting, performing good deeds, helping the needy, standing by the oppressed, and doing the right thing. The Quran says, believers, Jews, Christians, and Sabians, whoever believes in God and the judgment day and does what is right shall be rewarded by their Lord. They have nothing to fear or to regret. Islam reveres Moses and Jesus Christ as prophets. It is he who sent down to thee in truth the book confirming what was sent before it. He sent down the law of Moses and the gospel of Jesus before this as a guide to mankind, and he sent down the criterion for judgment between right and wrong. Islam honors the Virgin Mary, whom the Quran mentions in a chapter titled after her. Islam, like the other two heavenly religions, believes in paradise and hell, and its followers await the day of judgment when God will judge all those resurrected from the dead. The Quran teaches respect for all the holy books, the Torah, and the Bible, what has been revealed before. Despite historical wars, conflicts, and animosities, and centuries of tension between Jews, Christians, and Muslims, Wasatiyah, as a fundamental Islamic pillar, calls upon the descendants of Abraham for a collective effort to move to a future beyond the prejudice and hatred taught and practiced in the past and present, to forgive those who have wronged us, to have God forgive the wrongs we have done, and earnestly pursue mutual understanding and healing through cooperation and interfaith dialogue. Perhaps God will put love between you and your enemies, for God is mighty, forgiving, and merciful. Together, we are urged to uphold and promote the common principles of moderation, reconciliation, peaceful coexistence, tolerance, compassion, empathy, diversity, and belonging, and to propagate moral values that fosters pluralism, peace, liberty, and justice for the betterment of humanity. To each his religion. Had it been God's will, he could have made them all of one religion. He champions Holocaust education and combats anti-Christian teaching within the Muslim community, spread by the extremist Islamic parties such as Hamas and its the Muslim extremists demonize and delegitimize the other, claiming God sent Islam to eradicate the other two religions that went astray. Extremists misinterpret the Quranic scriptures and fabricate sayings attributed to the Prophet to advance their cause. Through the Wasatiyah initiative, we seek interfaith engagement, healing, and understanding after 2 harrowing years. We envision future Wasatiyah education that improves relations among people of diverse religions, guided by the vision outlined in Nostra Aetate. The real clash today is not between the civilizations of Islam on the one side and Christianity and Judaism on the other side, but between those in the cave of ignorance and those who left the cave and were blessed with knowledge and enlightenment. It is between the peacemakers and the warmongers, between those with hearts of stone and those with hearts of flesh. While those with hearts of stone incurred God's wrath, those with hearts of flesh are the ones blessed by God. Let me close with this thought. A journalist asked, what makes you remain optimistic about peace when those who have lost their faith in peace or that this conflict would ever be resolved peacefully represent the majority on both sides? My response The past and present belong to them, but the future belongs to us, the peacemakers and the peace builders. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohammed. And now to Christina Samara. Christina has over 30 years of experience in organizing high-quality travel services to VIP luxury, pilgrimage, and educationally focused groups visiting the Holy Land and the Near East region. A Palestinian Christian born and raised in Jerusalem, Christina obtained a degree in travel and tourism from the United States and returned to Jerusalem in 1991 to lead Samara Tourist and Travel Agency, her Jerusalem-based family business. Christina is also a licensed tour guide and holds several specialty degrees and licenses, and is a recognized expert in the field of Palestinian tourism. She was actively involved on the board of the Holy Land Incoming Operator Association and held the office of board chairperson from 2010 to 2012. In 2013, she acted as a consultant on a USAID project in tourism, resulting in joining forces with an Israeli friend and co-founding Breaking Bread Journeys, a unique tourism initiative that has flourished and is considered a success story in female entrepreneurship. Her company, Samara Tourist and Travel Agency, established in 1963, is still operating despite many difficult times and will continue to cater to pilgrims according to long-standing tradition. Christina is married with 2 children and has managed to juggle family and business life, and is currently involved in mentoring young Palestinian women who are going into business and reaching for their dreams. Christina.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel. I'm very honored. I'm here, basically, I would like to show and talk about how tourism can be used as a way of implementing the principles of Nostra Aetate. Maybe we don't realize it, but a lot can be done in a fun and different way through tourism. And this is something we've been doing a long time. My father established a business, Samara Tourist and Travel Agency, in 1963. Right after the visit of the Pope, he decided that it is very important for him to bring Christian pilgrimages to the land. And he did so, and he specialized mainly in Christian pilgrimages. Now, the Christian pilgrimages at the time was visiting from church to church, following the footsteps of Jesus Christ. And basically, it was a very short trip because it was very expensive at the time to come here. Afterwards, when I entered the business, my father unluckily passed away in 85, so I was still very young. I did my degrees and I went in his footsteps and continued operating the business. And meanwhile, over the years and through experience, I've noticed that it is the trends are changing, and we can introduce a lot more into these tours to make them more rich. And if we show and take people to places other than the Christian places, like the mosques and synagogues, and not only to take pictures, but also to talk to the imam and talk to the rabbi and get a different perspective and hear and be able to ask questions, not just take photographs and selfies. This was very important. So we started introducing these things, and it was very successful. So over the years also, like 13 years ago, I've had the opportunity to join another panel established by Prime Minister Tony Blair, trying to bring Palestinian and Israeli counterparts from the tourism industry. At the time, it was not viable. Nothing can be done on a big scale. But I met my friend Elisa Moed. She also runs a travel business, Travel Luya. And we were able to connect on a personal level, let's say. And we established, after a few years, with the help of USAID, we established this tourism initiative. It was one of the first Israeli-Palestinian joint initiatives in tourism. We called it Breaking Bread Journeys. Breaking Bread Journeys has these principles. Maybe we can show a short film and then I'll continue.
Turn off your microphone.
Just power up.
Yeah. Okay.
Breaking Bread Journeys is a story of two people who share one land, which they both call home. And it's told by two women, one Israeli and one Palestinian, both travel experts who love this land.
What we offer that is not offered in any other tour is an opportunity for people to see Israel and Palestinian territories, and we do that together.
We have come to learn each other's cultures because she's coming from an Israeli and Jewish background, and me as a Christian Palestinian, we thought we have nothing in common, but eventually, definitely, we have a lot of things in common, especially our love to this land and different things that we have to offer here.
In addition to our biblical pilgrimage, very important, it also has been a joy to be with those like Elisa, who know the land, who speaks from a Jewish perspective, and Christina, who knows the land, who speaks from a Christian perspective, both of them living here. And it simply adds almost like a wider view of vision. They have woven in fun and adventure as well as really insightful learning.
Building on the famous Middle Eastern hospitality, Breaking Bread Journeys has created a unique kind of experience, focusing on personal encounters with the locals.
Fantastic, absolutely fascinating. Every single one that you meet has a story, and it's wonderful to get the story. And we just learning the way that who was this made, for example, it's like a revelation. And I think life is about learning and loving and enjoying new experiences. And this place, I mean, it's just full of new experiences, new ideas, new sounds, new sights. It's just absolutely fantastic.
It's an excellent way to go deeper into this melting pot of different cultures and different. I particularly appreciate going into a house of a Hasidic family and being able to ask them how they live. That's better than reading a book.
Breaking Bread Journeys are small group tours, they're intimate group tours. In the small group, we can go to sites that are normally inaccessible. We can visit with locals in a small venue, something that you just can't do with 30, 40, 50 people. We can do these things between ourselves and our local contacts very quickly and very easily. Today is a very, very interesting day. This country has many aspects to it. It's a vibrant culture, heated politics. And today, I think we saw how it's possible to get these politics in order. That you saw the combination of different religions enjoying each other's company, sharing their stories with us. There was a camaraderie among them, which should set an example.
The tourists from abroad will get a real feel for the culture, the food, what they think, what they feel, and it will give them a certain satisfaction, and they leave from here knowing more than what they have heard in the media.
Discover this ancient yet modern land with its powerful stories and unique sights. Take the road less traveled with Breaking Bread Journeys. Experience the real Holy Land and be inspired.
Thank you for showing that. I think this short video kind of gave you the whole idea of what we're trying to do and how much fun it is. Now, what we also do is taking people to a Shabbat dinner, for example. And this is really a highlight. I've had the pleasure of having some people, Sarah here, hosting one of the dinners, for example. Also, we went to Professor Dajani's office to speak with him, iftar meals with families, Muslims, Christians. The iftar, if it's Ramadan, we take them to the iftar dinner, and the family explains about all the different traditions and related to food, related to prayer, and so on. And tourists just ask all kinds of questions they would like to ask that otherwise they would not have the opportunity to do so. So these are the highlights of the tours. Many people on the last day when we have a farewell dinner, many people, we do like a round, like asking everyone on the tour, what was your highlight? So we go through the whole group, and people just have tears in their eyes when they say what the spiritual highlight of them was. And these encounters that we do between Jewish, Christian, and Muslim encounters and families, these are the highlights, and you can read all about them in the TripAdvisor, how impactful this is, even as something as simple as tourism. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Christina. Before we move on, I just want to share a little bit about the Interfaith Encounter Association, as I am also facilitating but also representing the IEA, especially our sort of co-coordination of this wonderful celebration of Nostra Aetate. For the last 25 years, the Interfaith Encounter Association has been creating, supporting the development of and serving as a resource for interfaith encounter groups across this land. There have been more than 100 different groups that have been created. We even have some that are now active overseas. At any one time, I think currently we have more than 40 different active groups that could be bringing together people based on geography, folks of different faith traditions, different identities, different communities who live in proximity of one another. It could be based on position in life, students, certain professions, etc. Sometimes it's a learning interest that brings people together. I myself was involved with co-coordinating in its early years the multi-faith New Testament study group, and I recently started, and I'm trying to restart an interfaith Quran study group. So there are lots of different opportunities for people to get together and simply be themselves, in a new community, engage with each other, and try to hear each other. Our groups, generally speaking, don't have any particular goals other than to simply be in community with each other. And so it opens up opportunities, especially for folks who may not see themselves as peace activists or interfaith activists, but are simply interested. And because it is possible, and we are thrilled to support the evolution of basically any encounter, it really opens up a vast doorway for people to be able to participate in this kind of activity, to be able to get to know the other. So I'm very proud to represent the Interfaith Encounter Association and to be a part of this amazing event this evening. We'll move on now to a couple of questions, specifically in relation to Nostra Aetate and the work that we all do on the ground. Nostra Aetate teaches us that the church urges for sons and daughters to enter with prudence and charity into discussion and collaboration with followers of other religions, so that mutual understanding and respect may be fostered. So I want to start by posing sort of a double question in our interest of keeping to the schedule. Over the decades, obviously, a lot has happened as a result of Nostra Aetate. What do you see as some of the major achievements that Nostra Aetate has brought to us in this land? And maybe more specifically, feel free to address both at the same time. Through the initiatives and the work that you do, how do you see yourselves essentially fostering the values of Nostra Aetate and moving them forward to the next stage? Let me start with you, Peta.
I'd be honored to start, and I'm going to speak primarily about the Elijah Interfaith Institute with regards to this question, because Elijah takes seriously the word religions. We work with 6 different religions. In addition to the Christians, Muslims, and Jews, we also work with Hindus, Buddhists, and Sikhs. And we do look for the respect to look at the differences, to value and respect and honor the differences. And I think that was a key breakthrough with Nostra Aetate. It is to stop trying to make somebody believe as you believe, but actually to honor and respect the difference. And we've discovered and been able to build over the years the understanding that I see in a Jewish midrash, but others see it in other texts. The midrash where God was creating human beings, and the angels were saying it's not a good idea. So in order to break the deadlock between the angels who thought it wasn't a good idea and those who thought it was okay, God takes truth and throws truth to the ground, and truth is shattered into multiple pieces. And as a result of truth being shattered into multiple pieces, we should learn that as human beings, our access to truth is only ever partial. Each one of us can only ever find a partial truth. And the more we know about the other, the more our understanding of truth is growing. The truth that I don't have in my faith, someone else has in their faith, and I grow. And this has been a tremendous, I came into interfaith dialogue through my work in education. I was asked to consult as an educator and found myself in the world of dialogue. And I discovered how much I grew from, I thought I was there to explain who I was, to teach the other about who I was. But I also discovered that I gained so much from hearing from the other. I gained about my own identity, as well as respecting and learning. And we learned to take Stendel's idea of holy envy. That is to say, well, that is not part of my faith, but I recognize the beauty of it in another faith. And these are all things that Nostra Aetate opened up. The founder of the Elijah Interfaith Institute, Rabbi Gottstein Gottstein, doesn't necessarily speak directly about Nostra Aetate affected me this way, but he's clearly a man from that generation, open to hearing about the other. And in fact, Elijah started when a Jewish student said, I want to learn about Christianity, but how can I trust that a Christian won't want to convert me if I go to them to learn authentically about Christianity? And so Rabbi Gottstein said, I'm going to found this institute, which will enable us to learn about each other without the fear that that person is there to convert you. And this has been a very beautiful, powerful journey. And I do give credit to Nostra Aetate for opening up that way of thinking, that we can learn about each other in depth and seriously learn about each other with respect for the difference and without a need or a desire to make the other believe as we do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'll try to start in the point that you just end. As you mentioned, I think really Nostra Aetate influence on the Western world is wider than our ability to see the footsteps like really on the ground. I think the influence is its major influence. I think Nostra Aetate puts an alternative for each of one of us that says, why don't you follows this approach of respecting and honor different religion? Because if Catholic Church made that journey, and we know that it's a big shift, major shift within Catholic theology. So if they made it, what can we? And it's also, for me, it's always a mirror that reflects how much brave it must be as a leader in the field, and the leader of your own community and your responsibility for your own community. Having said that, from my perspective, I and we in the Ultra Interfaith Center, we think that we cannot longer stay in respecting one another. Respecting one another, that's what I think Nostra Aetate made in our world, that it has built a safe zone, a place, an environment that each of one of us can feel safe, as you said. But one of my dear colleagues from Drew University in New Jersey, Professor Jonathan Golden, always said that we have to look for the way to move from safe zone to brave zone. And the brave zone for me is to go forward to partnership. As Rabbi Soloveitchik back in the 60s wrote his famous manifest about Nostra Aetate called Confrontation, which means we have to go hand by hand because we both confront the same challenges. In other words, we have the same enemy. In other words, we have the same interests. So let's work together. And it's wonderful. It is not enough. Because our Bible is teaching us that we're looking for not just for mutual confrontation, but we're looking for partnership. We're looking for fraternity. We're looking to feel how and to find how we are worshiping God together. This is the goal of our prophets. And I think and feel that especially in our time, after 2 horrible years of war in our region, we can no longer just talk about holding the hope and holding the sky not to fall. We need to go further. We need to step more, to have more steps that taking the interreligious dialogue deeper and deeper. Because if we just will be together because we share interests, one day will come and other people will explain to us that we have different interests. But if we are feel brothers and sisters, if we feel the partnership, the fraternity, we feel like a family, so our partnership can last longer and to overcome the worst challenges that we have in life.
Can we show the clip now?
You show the clip now. Yes.
Wait, let's see if it works.
See what we do.
Okay.
Yes.
Done. In the back.
Mohammed Jama, the Institute's Western Fellow, is a Palestinian professor and activist. He was born in 1946 in one of Jerusalem's historic air battles, one that has been custodian of King David's tomb on Mount Zion since the 14th century. As a young adult, Tijani was a Palestinian revolutionary and an anti-American activist, but his views began to change when he came to the US as a graduate student.
To me, it was like getting out of the cave, because here I became exposed to different ideas, to democracy in practice and culture, and it was an eye-opener, and it was a very unique experience.
Inspired by American values, Tijani went on to create the first American Studies department in the Arab world at Al-Quds University in Jerusalem, where he taught a more balanced view of the United States. He also founded a non-political movement called Wasatiyah, which means middle ground. Wasatiyah promotes tolerance and moderation and teaches how those values are reflected in Islam. Both his work with Wasatiyah and his teaching of American studies reflect Tijani's belief in the importance of empathy for reaching reconciliation. Last year, he bravely took a group of Palestinian students to the Auschwitz death camp in Poland.
For me, it was very important because I thought that this topic is a taboo, and people did not want to talk about it, did not want to learn about it, because there is this misconception that it is a Zionist narrative. I thought that it is very important that we cannot remain ignorant about this, and that we should teach our students what really happened and try to focus on this topic from the human perspective.
He was forced to resign after a months-long campaign of death threats, campus riots, and intimidation. Tijani is now working in the United States to pursue his dream of a moderate Middle East.
Actually, I got introduced to the Institute when I met Dr. Robert Salford, and we developed a friendly relationship, and then this helped me see the work he is doing. And I thought what he did regarding the Holocaust and how he studied what Muslims contributed during the Holocaust. And so I thought that's exactly what we are doing, trying to build bridges between communities. And so we co-authored together an article that was titled, "Why Should Palestinians Learn About the Holocaust?" During my stay here, I was shocked to find how much people here learn, what a cultural and enriching environment it is. Also the colleagues around who have so much knowledge and so much experience and are contributing to all this good work. In that sense, I was also very impressed by the fact that I, as a Palestinian, is part of it, as well as many others who have come before me. I think that it is very important. This is, I think, part what we promote in Wasatiyah, to be able to know the other and to be able to understand the other and to learn about the other.
At a time of unprecedented violence and extremism in the Middle East, Tijani is a voice of moderation.
In trying to fight extremism, political force might work on the short run, but on the long term, it is ideology which is important. And that's why I believe that we need to promote moderation in order to have an ideology that will fight the extremist ideology.
Christina? Could you please mention Christina C? Thank you.
So I agree with many of my fellow panelists on many ideas. I think going back to tourism, in the past, I've been talking about, and we worked with bringing Christian pilgrims here, but it's very important also to take it a step further and bring the locals to each other. So the Palestinians and Israelis, Muslims, Christians, and Jews should also be able to come and share meals and share iftar dinners or Shabbat dinners and understand each other. After that, we'll end the dialogue that goes with it. People will understand we're more alike than we're different, and we can overstep many different things, the problems that we have here. So here, it fosters understanding, and it might even eventually bring some peace to this area. I also believe, taking it forward, that the Nostra Aetate principles should be taught in schools, young children, that they grow up with it and they will not feel the difference anymore when they're older. I worked with a different initiative also for many years. I'll explain a little bit. My children went to school here in East Jerusalem. They had no way of meeting other children on the Israeli side or Jewish children. So I decided to take them to a school, afternoon school, to learn German language, where Jews, Jewish, Muslim, and Christian children come together to learn a language. But it was much more than a language. They played together. They got to know each other. They learned about traditions. We celebrated Christmas and Hanukkah and all the different, we did several things also with learning each other's cultures. And that's really very important, whether it's Muslim, Christian, or Jewish religions. It brings people together, and it's very important to bring the children together. We'll have a much better future. I mean, it seems so simple. Why can't we do that? It seems simple.
We can go the other way. In the last few moments that we have, I want us to just think a little bit about how Nostra Aetate obviously was a fairly landmark moment in the relationship between Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and continues to develop. Obviously, over the last 2 years, we in this land have seen a landmark moment. And while perhaps some of the initiatives that we are part of and are trying to further have face some challenges, we continue to sort of play a very important role in where we head from here. So essentially the question is, as we move ahead in the future, in the next months and years, right, how do we envision the future of interfaith relations, encounter, and dialogue? Perhaps both in general, but also specifically the work that we are doing. Christine, I'll start with you.
Okay, I think I addressed many things, but in my previous words, taking it forward, we will continue to provide and bring people together. As I said, our long-term project development is bringing the locals together as well. Not just the Christian pilgrimages, but also bridging between the Muslims, Jewish, and Christian people generally, not just tourists, not just the foreigners coming here. You know, I think as a mother and human being, this is a natural thing that we should be doing. If you teach your children these principles as well, my own children, I think we can do a lot for the future.
Extremists on October 7th on the Palestinian side sought to widen the gap between us, between Muslims, Christians, and Jews. And extremists on the other side also, in the way they did things, had the idea of widening the gap in the sense of each one of them wants to establish their fantasy of a state without the other, whether it's a Muslim state from river to sea or a Jewish state from river to sea without the other. Our work is to not narrow that gap between both people so that we can share, so that we can have a state or 2 states or 3 states or no matter how many states in the sense that you have, but to have peace and to live in peace and to share the land. It is the idea of this king who was walking in the fields and he saw this old man planting an olive tree and he wanted to tease him, asking, are you expecting to eat from the fruits of this tree? And the old man said, our grandparents planted, we ate, we plant, so our grandchildren will eat. Unfortunately, our grandparents did left us the heritage of war and conflict. And we are working today in order that so that we can leave our grandchildren a heritage of peace, security, and prosperity.
Amen.
Thank you. So I think extremism, one of our main goal to challenge, to face, but also, as I said before, ignorance. To tell us the truth, most people never heard of Nostra Aetate. To tell you the truth, on both sides. I just came back from Rome, from a very special conference in the Gregorian University, and also a very exciting event with the Pope, Pope Leo in the Vatican. Was very exciting, very touching, hearing the Pope talking to millions of people about fighting anti-Semitism. But then in the conference, I want us not to take Nostra Aetate for granted. Because on the conference, when people came to dialogue, just one, but he was a very serious professor from an important university in Italy, stand up and gave a lecture that for each of one of us will seem as a anti-Semitic medieval manifest. And he tried to say that this is his conclusion from Nostra Aetate. The problem for him is now to gather where his head's at. So the fact that Jews want to fulfill their mission as they understand themselves in order to come back to the promised land, for him was a Satan story. Like it was really, like, for me, it was a shock. And of course, everyone was stirred up and criticized him, Jews, Christian, everyone. And then one of the professors stood up and said, we just made a poll. And most of our Christian communities have never heard of Nostra Aetate. And if I'm going back to my community, here in Israel, I'm ashamed to say, I'm really ashamed, but I have to admit, for many, many people, when they see beautiful clothes of priests, they still think in medieval image. They don't know how to re-envision in our present. They don't have a clue about what is happening. And I'm talking not about everyone, grassroots level, academic people, rabbis, everyone. It's just ignorance about what is happening. And of course, I don't want to be in encounters with Christians, because Christian in Jewish history, we all know. I don't want to say no more. We know history, but we know the present. And we have the tools to change our present and our future. And we hope all of us, each of one of us must be a peace fighter. But not a peace fighter that make lots of war in the world. Under the cover of history. As Rabbi Yaakov Legeno said, there is interfake and there is interfaith. So he wants to make the interfaith. So I think this is my task as a rabbi. I have to take responsible for my community, the extremists that I know that we have in our side, and we have to be much more clear about not taking Nostra Aetate as and just to know that 2,000 years of hatred not going anywhere so easily. Even 60 years of new age, we're not there yet. We have to keep fighting. We have to promote peaceful dialogue between us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very conscious of the time as somebody who moderates a lot of conversations. So I will try to be brief, but I do have to share this. On October the 5th, 2023, Praying Together in Jerusalem gathered and had a wonderful gathering. And it was the day after Women Wage Peace and had that huge, wonderful peace event. And that weekend I was on a high. And then October 7th. And Alon and I spoke, how are we going to react? We can't ignore this. And Praying Together in Jerusalem, as I mentioned, used to meet, does meet now, once a month. We said we want to meet more frequently. We want to meet at least once a week. And how do we want to meet? What is our topic? How do we meet? And we said we're going to discuss or share teachings on the dignity of the human person. And at the time, nobody imagined the war would go on for so long. In March, we created a compilation video, which was later awarded a place in a short film presentation on religion and peace and film and so on. But the point was that we were learning about the dignity of the human person from the perspectives of these 6 religions that I mentioned, and we were praying for the dignity of the human person. And I have realized over this time that this is a key message that we all share, that every individual deserves dignity. And wars undermine human dignity, whether you're the aggressor or you're the victim. Wars undermine your human dignity. And so my response was to become more of an activist. A few years ago in Women Wage Peace, we were asked to design our story. I was given a course on how to tell our story. And each of us had to come up with, what's your punchline? What's your slogan? And I realized as a person who prays that my slogan is, what's worth praying for is worth working for. If you pray for it, you must work for it. And that has become the mantra that I use. I have to work, not just pray for something, not just learn about it, not just study it, but actively get out there and do something towards it. Not that prayer isn't doing, but we need to go beyond. And I think our speakers, all our panelists have said that we need to go beyond. And I'll just finish with a little anecdote, because I just came back from touring Australia with a Palestinian colleague. I was on behalf of Women Wage Peace and she was from Fieldbed. And it was a religious Jewish woman and a Palestinian Muslim woman in tour together. And just the image, the vision of the two of us as friends, standing side by side, changed minds and changed hearts. And our motto was, don't please choose to support Israel. Don't please choose to support Palestine and Palestinians. Choose to support peace. It's not a zero-sum game. You don't love one and therefore you hate the other. And this is a message that I think has been consistent amongst this panel. Sorry, I'm Jared, if I'm taking a little bit of your lines away. But it's actually the message that we gave in Australia, and it is the message for the future. First of all, we've got to be seen together, not just speak about it, but I think the visibility of us walking through the streets together is so tremendously important. And we've also got to spread the message that every human person has human dignity, and that dignity is best expressed or realized when we respect each other's difference
and that we say that human dignity is about recognizing the value that each and every individual has and each and every community and religious community has. And that's human dignity, and that's our message. And that's what we have to get out there and show the world.
Before I wrap up and say thank you, I just want to add one sentence on the same topic, and that is simply that in a time of conflict, as we often find ourselves here in this land, I think we can all agree that it is often fueled by fear and the unknown of the other. And I think that the value of Nostra Aetate, certainly we of the Interfaith Encounter Association, take that value of encounter and trying to bring together people who are not necessarily activists or professionals in the field, but more that we can get people to simply sit in a room together and to talk to each other, can actually give us the tools that we need to either work through periods of tension and conflict or to avoid them altogether. The more that we know each other, the more that we understand each other, the more that we're curious about each other, can certainly help us in simply avoiding conflict altogether. So if that value of Nostra Aetate doesn't compel us to continue the good work that we all do, I don't know what does. So I want to thank you very much, Peta and Samuel, Mohammed, and Christina, for joining us. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all our panelists, and I'll also take the opportunity to thank Peta, who was also very involved in the organization of this event today. And my personal consultant every time I needed her help. Thank you so much. Since we're talking about the things that Interfaith Encounter were able to develop in the past 2 decades, I have to say one of the most important achievements is in a way democratization, if you can call them that we don't think it anymore just as something that leaders do, either religious leaders or political leaders. It's something that we know can be done grassroots, and then each of us can be a part of it. When Rabbi Rosen was speaking before, he reminded me of a midrash about it. Says, "Open the door as tiny as the needle, and I will open the gates wide enough to let the cars drive through." That is, we open this little bit of the door, and in this sense, God opens the gates. But I think also if we add to each of the little holes that we make, put it together, and we're creating something greater. And that's what everyone in this family is doing. And that's what we will be doing now, together in Interactive. So I talked to you about the Interfaith Encounter New Testament Study Group. Derek also mentioned it. So now we'll be able to have a taste of it. So I invite the coordinator of the group, Ken Dicko, to introduce people.
Thank you. And we're going to close the Zoom. I thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So